Okay, it's 3:00. Let's do the call to order and the roll call.
All right, I will start with Vice Chair Michelle Nard.
Michelle Nard reporting from Warren, Michigan, Macomb County.
And Chair Brown.
Don Brown attending remotely from Washington Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Veronica Kleinfeld voting remotely from East Point, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Romano.
Commissioner Romano, District 4, Sterling Heights, present and participating remotely in Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Kraft.
Commissioner Phil Kraft attending remotely from Chesterfield Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Wallace.
Commissioner Wallace attending remotely from Mount Clemens, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Song.
Commissioner Song attending remotely from Warren, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Commissioner Van Sickle attending remotely, Sterling Heights, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Zinner.
Commissioner Zinner attending remotely from Harrison Township, Michigan, Macomb County.
Commissioner Matuzik.
Commissioner Matuzik participating remotely from Clinton Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Farrington.
Commissioner Jeff Farrington participating remotely from Utica, Macomb County, Michigan.
Commissioner Sabatini.
Commissioner Sabatini attending remotely from Macomb Township, Macomb County, Michigan.
And Commissioner Haw. Okay, as we still work to get him connected, that does complete the roll, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, now we'll have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Ooh.
Actually, we can
So
do
moved,
Pledge of
Sabatini.
Allegiance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. To Pledge of Allegiance, everybody stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
Romano adopts the agenda.
Support by Kleinfeld.
A motion by Romano, adopt by, okay.
Kleinfeld.
Kleinfeld. And then now let's do approval of the minutes dated April 7th, 2021.
Chair, we gotta do the vote first, and then we'll.
Oh, I thought he did. Okay, let's do our voting. I'm sorry. Thank you, Kleinfeld.
That motion passes 12-0.
Okay. And now we'll move forward to the approval of the minutes dated April 7th, 2021. Motion to approve.
So moved, Van Sickle.
Second, Zinner.
We have a motion by Fiscal and second by Commissioner Zinner. Let's count the vote.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Commissioner Sabatini. In regards to the minutes, item number 12, I believe. The vote just came up, so I can't see it on my screen exactly. But in regards to us going to closed session, I know I did support that motion. Was in closed session. I believe a number of other commissioners also supported that, but it's not noted on the minutes for 12A.
Yep, I see.
So if I could be added to that, I don't know if any other commissioners should be added to that as well.
I don't know how to do that, but yes, I think. How do we do that?
Commissioner Nard, this is Michael. What I would propose is we could just wait to approve the minutes until the next committee meeting, and we can make sure that those amendments are made and sent out to commissioners so everyone has time to review them and then finally approve them.
Okay, let's do that. Let's prompt the vote to motion to move to the next meeting.
That motion passes 13-0.
Okay. Now we'll move forward to item 5, public participation. The first opportunity for public participation is for those who wish to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes on an item which is on today's agenda. The second opportunity for public participation is for those who wish to speak on issues other than what is on the agenda. And I don't have, okay, let's see. Those planning to speak during public participation, please be advised according to Rule 21 of the adopted board. Personal attacks, coarse and derogatory language, and cursing will not be tolerated. Individuals using such language will be removed from the meeting. Also, those who call in by phone for public participation will be asked to speak first in an orderly fashion. Those who join virtually will be asked to type their name into the chat, into the Google chat box. Those names will then be called in the order in which they were received. And I believe you, in order to speak, you had to press *6. Is there anyone in public participation?
Commissioner Nard, we have Pamela Lideline wishing to speak.
Good afternoon, Pamela. Pamela there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. My name is Pamela Lideline. I live in Macomb Township. I'm speaking to support the proclamation of declaring the first Friday in June as Gun Violence Awareness Day in Macomb County. That's item 11A on the agenda. This National Gun Violence Awareness Day is also called Wear Orange Day. Wear Orange Day was initiated by friends of Hadia Pendleton, a 15-year-old honor student who was killed in Chicago a week after she and her classmates performed at President Obama's second inauguration. Orange was chosen since it is bright and a color that hunters wear to stand out so they won't be shot. I spoke to this board last year and shared the story of my daughter, Michelle Packard, who was also an innocent victim after being struck and killed by a stray bullet in Lansing on July 4th, 2012, as she and her fiance waited in a park for a fireworks display to begin. She had just completed her PhD in biosystems engineering at Michigan State University. I think of her every day. I ask that you think of her on June 4th by wearing orange. More than 100 people are killed every day by guns in the United States. Twice that number are wounded. Gun deaths take many forms, including suicides, unintentional shootings, and homicides. It is now a leading cause of death for American children and teens. Gun Violence Awareness Day is about just that, bringing awareness to the number of incidents of gun violence that occur every day. Many do not even make the news. It's also about honoring the victims and survivors of gun violence. This includes families, friends, co-workers, neighbors, and others who live with the trauma of experiencing gun violence as part of their lives. I thank you for your support of this proclamation in 2019 and 2020 and ask for the same this year. Remember to wear orange on June 4th to honor the victims and survivors of gun violence in our county, our state, and our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Packard.
Lideline.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really feel for you. I just want to say real quickly, I really feel for you. I'm on Saturday, I'll be burying my cousin who just got shot in the face on Friday. Ex-boyfriend killed her. And, then there was a young lady that was in my group. She got killed last month. She was 18 years old. She got gunned down in an apartment township. So I feel for you on that.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
as a point of order, we don't normally speak to members of the audience when they give public participation. The violation of our rules gets kind of cumbersome that way. But you don't know it's rookie, but just a note for future. Thank you.
And Chair Ha is standing by eagerly waiting to jump in.
Oh, there he is. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Vice Chair Nard. Let the record reflect I am attending remotely from Roseville, Macomb County, Michigan, and my internet is back on, so thank you for standing in very eloquently.
Thank you.
I believe the next item is appointments. We have Health Department Hearing Board, Health Department recommendation with board concurrence, one appointment, one alternate to expire on December 31st, 2022. Two recommendations, appointment Carolyn Thomas, alternate Dr. Don Ambroyer. Need a motion, please.
Motion made by Farrington.
Support Wallace.
I have a motion by Commissioner Farrington, supported by Commissioner Wallace. Let me move to see if this is going to be interesting to see if this works now. Now I got to sign back in. Is there any commissioners that would like to speak on the appointments?
We do not have any commissioners listed to speak at this time, Chair Ha.
Thank you.
Chair Ha, we do have both applicants on the meeting to speak.
Oh, okay. Which would like to speak first?
I guess I'll go first.
Let's go with Carolyn.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for inviting us to come to your meeting today. I was asked to just give a brief introduction of what I do here in Macomb County. And first off, I'd like to thank Andrew Cox, who's the director of the health department, who I've known for a long time. When he invited me to take this position, I am the child nutrition consultant here at the Macomb Intermediate School District. So I support all 22 of our school districts here in Macomb County with their child nutrition programs. I provide support through training and development and leadership. I bring the directors together once a week. I am their liaison between the state and the district. In addition to the county level responsibilities that I have, I teach sanitation and food safety frequently, at least once a month. And I also am a ServSafe manager certification instructor and proctor. And I'm teaching that in our school nutrition programs exclusively because we have so many employees here in Macomb County that need it. So I've been doing that for quite a while. And I also am the chief administrator here at the MISD for our special needs-based child nutrition programs. So we have 8 buildings, and as you can imagine, providing meals for special needs children is a challenge in and of itself. But we have a tremendous team, and I work very closely with Environmental Health Division at the Health Department. I also am a member of the Healthy Children's Access to Services group in a different department of the Health Department. I work very closely with them, and I'm also Healthy Kids, Healthy Michigan's. I'm the Macomb County representative for that. And I just stepped down as president of the Michigan School Nutrition Association. So food safety is very, very important to me. So I'm honored to take the appointment if I am approved.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do. Any questions for Carolyn? Seeing none, we'll move on to Dr. Ambroyer if he's on. Doctor? You may have to unmute yourself. Crystal, did you say he was on?
Yes, I do see him. I do show he's muted. I know he was out of town and might experience some internet connection issues. So if he doesn't unmute himself, we can probably move on.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, we have a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you again for all that you've done.
Thank you.
Next item is Health Department Hearing Board appointments. One appointment, one alternate to expire December 31st, 2022. Appointment Barb Zinner, alternate Julie Matuzak. I need a motion, please.
Motion by Romano to appoint Barbara Zinner and Julie Matuzak to the Health Department Hearing Board.
We have a motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Nard. Would either of you like to speak? Barb, first.
Thank you. Thank you for nominating me. I will, if you vote me in, I will do the best I can for the citizens of Macomb County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Matuzak.
No need. Let's just vote.
Fair enough. Any questions?
Can I say one thing? I know if I can't be there, Julie will do the best she can for the citizens of Macomb County too.
Okay, thank you both. We have a motion support. Please vote. Thank you.
Do we vote?
You can vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Congratulations and good luck moving forward. Next item on the agenda, item 7, presentation, Michigan Association of Counties. I need a motion, please.
Move to receive and file by Kleinfeld.
Support Farrington.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kleinfeld, supported by Commissioner Farrington. Commissioner Kleinfeld, would you like to say anything before the presentation?
No, I'll just like to recognize and introduce Executive Director Curry and Dina Bosworth and Megan Kite Korean to open it up and give us a presentation.
Great. I'll bet the two of you haven't heard her say that for a long time. So, Mr. Curry, you're first, or Dina?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get us started. We do have some slides we'd like to run through. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay, let's see here. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. So first, thanks. My name's Steve Curry. I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Counties. I'm, of course, joined today by Dina Bosworth and Megan Kite, both of our Government Affairs Department. I just have a few overview slides I wanted to run through before they get kind of into the meat of the presentation, which is really going to highlight a lot of the legislative issues we've been working on so far this year. We plan to continue to work on over the next legislative session. So first, just in a high overview of MAC, MAC is made up of 16 board members elected by commissioners, 2 from the 6 of our regions to ensure we have broad geographic representation. We typically meet 4 times a year, usually at our conferences, and then another time over the summer and in the winter or fall. Of course, those have all been virtually because of the situation we're in. We are hoping to get back into some in-person meetings in July, and definitely for our annual conference this September. We have elections for our board typically occur at our August-September annual conference. So this is the current MAC leadership. Of course, President Kleinfeld is our MAC president. Phil Kyers is our first vice president. He's from Ottawa County. And Stan Ponstein is our second vice president, and he's from Kent County. And then just what do we see the purpose of MAC is? Of course, advocacy is the number one thing we do. That's advocating both at the state and federal level. We provide various educational opportunities. I mentioned the 2 conferences we host a year. We also provide the new county commissioner school in cooperation with MSU Extension right after the elections every 2 years right now. And we also provide what we call regional summits each summer. Those will occur this year in in July, and we'll be sending out information on those at the end of this month. Those are just one-day educational sessions. And then we provide various services through our association as well that many counties take advantage of to help save them time or money. So if we first start off with some federal overview of what's at the federal level, of course, we're talking about American Rescue Plan. As you may or may not know, those funds should be due in anyone, and the first half of those funds should be due in counties' accounts anytime now. We still have not received detailed information on how those funds can be used from U.S. Treasury. We are expecting those potentially yet this week, or if not this week, next week. So I think that'll really help folks get a better understanding of how those funds can be used, and you can start putting together plans on where you want to use those funds. What we do know is that those funds can be used for aid to aid yourselves in any COVID-related expenses and for any revenue lost. In addition, those funds don't have to be used right away. You have 3 years to use those funds. So a smart move on some of that may be just to wait a little bit and see what happens with lost revenue over the next 3 years. What happens to property taxes if, remote work becomes more and more popular? What happens to your commercial property tax base? So once we get that U.S. Treasury information, we'll be sure to send that out to everyone so you have that. Now, moving on to some of our state issues. These are some of the issues we're focusing on over the next 2 years. By no means an exhaustive list, and we're going to go into more detail on each of these and some other items not on this list. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dina or Megan. Sorry, Megan's going to go first.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for letting us participate today. One of our main priorities really is creating 4-year terms for county commissioners rather than the 2 years that we have now. And Michigan is one of 5 states that have it this way. And so we had a push for it last year in the legislature. It had some fallout based on more political issues and just which year that 4-year term election would be held on, whether it be a presidential or a gubernatorial. We took that to our board. Didn't matter either way. County commissioners run on both of those terms right now. So we just wanted to see this really get done. Unfortunately, during the lame duck session, it did not make it through, but we do have them reintroduced now this year, Senate Bills 242 and 245. They're sponsored by Senator McBroom from the UP and Senator Jeremy Moss out of Oakland County. So Republican, Democrat, they do start on the 2024 presidential election cycle, and we actually just last week had them have testimony in the Senate Local Government Committee, and then the committee actually unanimously voted them out. So feel very good that we are going to see those get some more traction this year, seeing some more bipartisan support, and hopefully make it all the way to the governor's desk. Want to go to the next slide? So this is something that has really been a long-standing issue and a long-standing priority for MAC is really to enact reforms to improve the functioning of our local courts. It's really been debated and continues to be debated in the courts. And so for those that are newer on this commission, there was a Supreme Court decision back in 2012 and 13 that basically determined state law didn't provide courts authority to impose cost on criminal defendants to fund the day-to-day operations of the courts. And so the legislature reacted. They said, we'll give you the statutory authority, but they put sunset provisions in it, which means there's basically an expiration date for that authority. So our first expiration was in 2017. We were successful in getting that extended just last year during the pandemic to have another extension until October 1 of 2022. Because this continues to be constitutionally challenged within the court system, we really want a longer term solution. And the legislature did put together a trial court funding commission to review and recommend a better long-term solution to fund our court system, and really found that overall the statewide system is about $1.2 billion, but only 2% of the state general fund actually contributes to that. So we're really pushing for a more equitable, a more balanced approach with the state to fund our courts. And so that's really what that first bullet speaks to, is how can we come up with a system where those funds are coming in, are a little more equitable across the state, go to fund court operations rather than being diverted to all these different areas. Some of these costs go to the state and then we never see them. And really a longer term discussion and implementation process, but we continue to prioritize it. And I'll note we do have House Bill 4447 introduced by Representative Sarah Leitner. this is really just a small piece of the Trial Court Funding Commission's recommendation to move all judicial salaries to be fully funded by the state. So it's a majority of it is funded by the state right now, but there's a administrative process where the counties have a reimbursement process between the state, and we just really think it's a way to start getting the ball rolling on some of these recommendations. And hopefully we can show the legislature that we are working towards larger reforms so that when October 1, 2022 comes up, we can make sure to extend that sunset again, so that we're not in financial crisis for our court system. And then the last bullet on that slide is, really about technology. We always want more data and data-driven policies, and our systems are certainly decentralized and antiquated at this point. So Scale's been rolling out their electronic filing system. It's supposed to be implemented between 2025 and 2027, depending on what levels of funding the state contributes. But we at MAC continue to fight off bills such as House Bill 4164 that requires all court case filings to be available online to the general public for free by January 1, 2023. So duplicative to the Scale process, and in our mind certainly is an unfunded mandate on court funding units as it's currently written. So there's a lot of work within the court reform world. Next slide. I think that's Dina.
All right, thank you, Megan. Very good. I think there's, again, a ton of information on local courts. Our next priority deals with reforming local government finance. And we talk about that every single year in every single legislative session in Lansing. It's been a battle for decades. When the state really had a budget crunch in the early 2000s, it was on the backs of local government, we believe, that they balanced their budget. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about revenue sharing. That's where we felt it the most. So I think reforming revenue sharing, it tops our list. Counties, unlike cities and townships, only get statutory revenue sharing. That means for every single year in the budget process, your revenue sharing payments from the state have to be appropriated. They go through the appropriations committee. They decide on what that dollar amount is going to be. Unfortunately, they have a great amount of discretion on how much they will fund you. We struck a deal back in 2004 when the state was in a budget crunch that we would go off of revenue sharing and pay ourselves out of what was a county revenue sharing reserve fund. It was a change in how we collected property taxes. It created a surplus. I tell you that, and I get in the weeds a little bit because I want you to understand that there's a significant amount of money that the state has withheld from county government when they had promised that they were going to make those payments to you. Every county exhausted that county revenue sharing reserve fund at a different time, whether it be 2008, 2010, 2015. My last county to exhaust that fund exhausted in 2023. Well, for several years, the state was still in a budget crunch when those counties were coming back on, and they did not give you your full revenue sharing payment. What that means, looking at the number for Macomb County, I just had it right in front of me, and then I moved my list. It's about $14 million that we believe that the state owes Macomb County at this point in time. That's because Macomb County exhausted their reserve fund in 2012, came back into the state revenue sharing payment system, and the state kept cutting you until 2015 from what your base funding was. So we think they owe you about $14 million. I've gone over this and sent an email to all county administrators and board chairs that explain this process. And then I would like you to really consider contacting your legislators and asking them for those funds back. Steve mentioned, the billions of dollars that are coming into the state from the American Rescue Plan. Although these would not be eligible for American Rescue Plan dollars from the state, they are also going to have a ton of money. And now is a really good time to ask for that back payment back. So please keep an eye out for that or talk to your board chairs. We're also trying to secure revenue sharing in a way that takes it out of this annual appropriations battle. And we want to create a dedicated revenue stream for county revenue sharing called the Revenue Sharing Reserve or Revenue Sharing Trust Fund. This is an amount of money that would be a carve out of the state use tax or an excise tax, and also part of the budget stabilization fund to go into a reserve, or to go into a trust fund, so that that's where your county revenue sharing payments come out of. That makes it a lot harder for the legislature to monkey around with the dollar amount. They would actually have to vote to take it away, as opposed to come up with a dollar amount to allocate toward you. We think that's just a much more secure method of doing it. In addition to that, if you take part of the growth of the budget stabilization fund, you're looking at some annual increases in the amount of money that's available to go to revenue sharing. When I first started to talk about that, and this is for those new commissioners who haven't heard me talk about it before, statutory revenue sharing is the only kind that counties get. Cities, villages, and townships get constitutional revenue sharing, and that is a direct carve out of the sales tax that the legislature can't touch. So cities, villages, and townships overall, representing 100% of the state, get about $1.1 billion in revenue sharing every year. Counties, who also represent 100% of the population of the state, get about $230 million a year. So there's a huge discrepancy there. Ours is discretionary. Much of their revenue sharing is constitutional and can't be touched. I'll move on from there and talk about some other initiatives we're working on. We're working on a tourism reinvestment excise tax. This is the idea that you have an influx of people into your area for tourism. This would be a bed tax that would help you pay for a lot of your public safety and your first responder initiatives, instead of just solely relying on your property tax base to fund that. Or recently we dealt with a Raffelli decision. I think everybody's probably familiar with that. That's a foreclosure issue. Only the majority of the counties in the state of Michigan are in the foreclosure business. So we take unpaid property taxes and we make the local units of government whole with that out of our delinquent tax revolving fund. We take possession of that property. We try to collect on those back taxes. If we cannot, it goes through a tax foreclosure process, the proceeds of which, if there's excess money, it goes into a delinquent tax fund. If there is not, then we have the opportunity of going back on the local units to make that fund whole. Post Raffelli, that court decision on Raffelli, they are saying that the previous property owner who did not pay their property taxes is entitled to all of that excess revenue, minus your expenses. That means that there's no, it's going to make it a lot harder for counties to break even on that foreclosure process. We are seeking legislation to open up the window to have the state take back the responsibility for foreclosures if a county chooses. We want this to be a county by county decision. Like I said, there are currently 7 counties in the state right now where the state is a foreclosing governmental unit. Legislation that would open that up to allow you that option. And then tax capture districts. This is something that at MAC we've been working on for as long as I have been there. These are those tax increment financing authorities, downtown development authorities that capture the tax growth in certain areas and continue to capture them into perpetuity. This is billions of dollars across the state. That is the estimate from the University of Michigan. And that's a capture every single year of tax revenue that goes to whatever project or authority has that tax capture authority. Counties really are not at the table for that for the most part. And so we want legislation that would actually give them the opportunity to sit at the table, to vote on it, and to have those baselines reset so that you can actually actualize the growth in tax value from those properties. I could talk about that forever, but I won't totally bore you. Steve, next slide, please. Thank you. Again, we talk about tax exemptions. The legislature loves to give away property tax exemptions to special interests. Sometimes they're for very, very good causes, very good issues. Primary example is 100% disabled veterans now enjoy a full property tax exemption. The legislature voted on that, but they did not provide a mechanism to reimburse local units of government for those losses. And so we have been working with the legislature for, 8 years now, trying to get reimbursement to the local units of government for the property tax giveaway that they gave to the disabled veterans. I want to be very clear about this. We are not trying to advocate to take away this benefit for the veterans at all. What we are trying to do is to get the state to pick up the expense of it. Our research indicates that there are over 20,000 parcels in the state of Michigan that have been exempt from property taxes due to this property tax exemption. We have legislation drafted in the House. Representative Bola Fave and Representative Yark have bills that would require the state to reimburse local units of government. We also have a package of bills in the Senate that have not quite been dropped yet, but it would be a reimbursement for local units of government out of the homestead property tax credit. Again, full reimbursement for us, so that's what we're seeking. And then we also want a moratorium on additional property tax exemptions. We have seen solar personal property tax exemption bills introduced last term. We're part of a work group with the University of Michigan, the administration, and legislative leaders and other interest groups talking about what we can do about solar personal property tax. Should that be, a payment in lieu of taxes? Should we have a standardized way of valuing them, but just not flat out exempting them from taxes? There's, broadband equipment, personal property tax exemption bills out there. We were successful in defeating those. The governor has vetoed them, so that's at least a step in the right direction. MAC is not opposed to broadband, by the way. We just also have, not speaking clearly, we do not support any property tax exemptions without full reimbursement from the state, and don't think that that's necessarily the way to solve all the problems. Next slide, please. Dark stores. I don't know if all of you are familiar with the dark store issue, but basically this is a valuation problem when you're dealing with empty big box retailers. Think about your empty Walmart or your empty Kmart buildings or empty Circuit City buildings that are sitting there. And then think about your Home Depot that just got built, brand new building. So it's a valuation problem where the newly built big box stores are trying to get a reduction in the value of that property by utilizing vacant dark stores as an equitable, completely losing my train of thought here, property to value their property. So if that property is worth $8 a square foot, and we think that the new building is valued at, construction says it's valued at $22 a square foot, they want to use that dark store as a comparable in that valuation. That's been going on for quite some time. We've had legislation introduced in multiple legislative sessions by which we say you have to use all three different valuation methods. By that I mean there's a sales approach to valuing property, there is a comparable approach to valuing property, and there's an income approach to valuing property. Utilizing a dark store as a comparable should not be considered. So we have legislation out there that's being drafted to deal with that in a way that says, hey, you can't use a dark store as a comparable property. It's just not okay. You also can't use a dark store that has deed restrictions on it as a comparable property. And by deed restrictions, I'm talking about I've seen the deed restrictions on Walmart buildings that say you can't sell garden equipment, you can't sell pharmaceuticals, you can't sell food, you can't sell clothing, you can't do anything with this building other than maybe turn it into a go-kart track or a church. Well, that artificially manipulates the marketplace and devalues that property. And that should be a prohibited use, prohibited comparable because of the deed restrictions on that property. I wanted to just jump back to something Steve said earlier about the American Rescue Plan funds and the use of those funds for revenue loss. Because of what has happened with the dark stores and the litigation that we've seen, we can look into the future a little bit and see what's going to happen to commercial property too. And he's absolutely right. We're looking at a situation where these office buildings are not being utilized in the way that they used to be. More work from home is creating a vacancy, and we're afraid of blight. Once that happens, the value of those commercial properties are going to drop. We've already heard that, you know, Mr. Shapiro, who started this whole dark stores endeavor, is back in the state working on appeals for the value of commercial real estate. And so we are very much concerned about what's going to happen going forward. So be aware of that. Next slide, please. And then, of course, infrastructure is a priority for us. It's always a priority for us, whether it be roads, bridges, water, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, broadband, all of the above. And so we've got a budget going through the process right now where the governor has recommended millions of dollars into some of these programs. We have the American Rescue Plan out there that says, hey, you can use some of these funds for water, sewer, and broadband for your infrastructure. And then you've got the federal government looking at the American Jobs Plan, which is trillions of dollars that could potentially also go into infrastructure for these things. Again, you know, still working with the legislature. Right now, the House and the Senate are moving their budget bills for fiscal year 22 through the process. They have all just come out of subcommittee, and they were working on them in full appropriations committee both yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And we expect them to move out of the Senate and House chambers and switch over next week. What those recommendations are, we don't have them all yet, and they're not necessarily in agreement. A little bit of tension between the governor's office and the legislature on the budget priorities and the response to the COVID pandemic. So what happens there, we'll have to wait and see. Next slide, please. Human Services.
Yeah, so I can cover this one. So there's a lot of different things that fall under our Human Services, Health and Human Services platform. Something we worked on a couple of terms, well, last legislative term was, of course, transitioning 17-year-olds to be automatically prosecuted as juveniles versus going through the adult system. And so now October 1, 2021 is here. That's the go live date for Raise the Age to begin. And of course, the county concern was more programming and services cost for more youth coming into the system. So, so we do track that budget very closely. We want to ensure the state fulfills its obligation to cover those costs. The child care fund eligible cost within the statute, that does have to be 100% reimbursed to counties for any programming and educational services that are provided to youth. But there's also additional fund, the Raise the Age fund, that MAC was successful in getting, because there are certain costs that aren't eligible under the child care fund. So whether it's attorney cost or anything within your courts, if you need additional court referees, those are going to be eligible. So we created a separate fund for that. The governor recommended $9 million in it. The House concurred at that, and then Senate actually put in $13 million. And so, you know, we think that that's really helpful. It's encouraging. We know the Department of Health and Human Services is still reaching out, working with counties and courts, trying to figure out what those exact dollar amounts are for the needs that we're going to see come this fall. And so we'll work to make sure that that number that the counties respond with gets enacted into the budget. And I think we have a lot of support from the legislature on that. The next item on County Veteran Service Fund. 2018, the Speaker of the now Speaker of the House, Representative Jason Wentworth, had put a fund together that goes directly to county veteran services in an amount of $50,000 in base grants. And then you get additional money on top of that based on your veteran population. Of course, as we work through any new grant program, there are just certain things that don't always work. There are things we find out make counties ineligible, maybe due to how they contract with other counties. They may have a part-time staff. They can't meet the 20-hour requirement that was put forth in the statute. So we've worked with the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs to put together House Bill 4122, which really does expand that eligibility, gets that $50,000 base disbursement out to as many counties as possible to really ramp up their veteran services. So we're seeing that be successful as part of the governor's recommendation at $4 million for that fund, and the House and the Senate have also concurred on it. So we're really excited about that funding, but also that we're going to get more counties eligible. There was also a waiver of the maintenance of effort requirements for fiscal year 21 and 22 that we had inserted. There were a couple of counties, that smaller rural counties, that just because of the pandemic struggled to meet their statutorily required maintenance of effort payment to draw down those funds. Obviously now with the influx of federal money, they may not need it, but there is that option now in the bill before the Senate Committee of Families, Children's, Seniors, and Veterans. So we expect that to move here very shortly, probably next week out of committee and then in the full Senate. And then the last two bullet points on this slide are something I've heard for a long time our priority for our commissioners, really ensuring that our mental health system remains a public entity, to really ensure that accountability and oversight is maintained versus transitioning to some type of private managed care organization. The Senate Majority Leader Shirkey has had this as a priority for a long time. Some of you either that have been on the commission for a while or previously in the legislature may have recalled the Section 298 debate, where there were pilots to really see if there could be a transition to that private managed care organization versus our current system through our community mental health agencies. So he's kind of re-upped his priority to integrate these systems. And Mac's definitely been at the table. We've talked to his office a couple times already. And we really, encourage you to talk to legislators, really ensure that you talk to your community mental health directors, your jails, all of these things that get support because we are so locally embedded and structured. And I think anything that might transition to a private system could really upend that structure and potentially erode those relationships and the ability to respond to the community needs, whether it's in those school-based services, treatment courts, whatever that response is. So I think we can talk about funding for this, of course, can be debated all day long, but we know that the Senate Majority Leader's plan, I think, is well intended, but there's just no financial restructuring that really gets the crux of the issues that we're seeing, particularly in rural northern Michigan, and really everywhere with workforce shortages, lack of inpatient bed space, those gaps in the system that really need to be addressed before just transitioning basically to a different payment model. So lastly, there is one thing not on the slide, but we track new bills every day. And so I think it is good to note one thing for this group, that there was recently an introduced package of bills in the House that their House bills 4729 through 4732. Basically, they significantly reduce fees, which are $1 per page for getting copies of those of property records. So it's a bill being pushed by Zillow, so your housing a housing app that you have, and they basically want some of this information for very little to no cost. And so we know we've already heard from County Treasurers Association, County Register of Deeds, and we'll work closely with them to look at the numbers and make sure that there's not a significant financial impact on counties. But wanted to draw to your attention, it is in Representative Steve Marino's Commerce and Tourism Committee. He chairs that committee. He's from Macomb County. He's also one of the bill sponsors. So we'll continue to work with our partners at those other associations and dig into it a little bit more and start meeting with legislators on those as well. And with that, I think that wraps up our slides.
Well, yeah, I'm going to run through these last few slides real quick so there's time for some questions. So really, the policy committees are internal committees where we get our marching orders. Any member county of MAC any county commissioner from a member county of MAC can participate in these committees. If you would like to participate, you can participate remotely. You can see when they meet. They typically meet from September to June each year. They take the summers off. and that's when they meet. You just fill out an application. We can get you appointed to those committees. We do have a MAC PAC. It's a smaller PAC, but it does help support those former county commissioners in the legislature or key legislators in leadership positions. We have 31 former county commissioners in the legislature right now. That's probably one of the highest numbers we've ever seen. And we do appreciate the support of many county commissioners contributing to our fund throughout the years. Of course, this is our legislative team. You've just heard about all the hard work Dina and Megan have been doing. We also have Hannah Sweeney, who's our government affairs assistant. If there's ever any questions and you don't know where to go, you can reach out to Hannah at that email address and she can point you in the right direction. I mentioned our conferences earlier. We will be doing our regional summits in late July. Our annual conference will be September 26th through 28th, and that'll be up at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. And then we'll be having our spring conference, or our legislative conference next spring, and it'll be back in Lansing again, hopefully back in person. And then finally, these are our communication tools. We've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We do a podcast now every Monday that you can tune in live or you can find recorded. And we also do a weekly legislative update. So hopefully you're getting that and getting the information on that. And we do have a newly printed every other month newsletter. And of course, there's our website where all this information is accessible as well. So hopefully you got some good information today. Would love to open it up for some questions for Dina, Megan, or I.
Thank you, Steve. Before I move to questions, let me thank you, Megan and Dina, and our Commissioner Kleinfeld for having you guys come and make this presentation. I think it'd be great if we did it at least twice annually so that we can get an update of where we're at. But I did want to pose a question to Dina. She had mentioned that the state owes Macomb County $14 million. Call your representative and your senator. I don't want anybody to get confused, because hypothetically, if we do that and they all go, yes, we do owe you that, yes, we do want to give it back, there's still one heck of a process dealing with the rest of the counties to try and get that money back to Macomb County. So maybe you could take just a few seconds to explain, even if all the Macomb County representatives and senators said, yep, you guys should get that 14 million, what happens next?
You're right. Okay, so this is just all part of the budget process. We've made an ask of the House Subcommittee Chair, the House Appropriations Committee Chair, the Senate Appropriations Chair, the Senate Subcommittee Appropriations Chair, and with the State Budget Office to get you guys this money back. But yes, I mean, even if all of the Macomb County legislators, you reach out to them and they decide that, yes, they want to support getting that $14 million back to Macomb, you still have to have a majority vote. You still have to get the money in the budget. They've got to figure out, you know, where in the general fund it's going to come, if it's going to come from the general fund, or if they're going to move money around, where it comes from in order to give it to you. And then you've got to get everyone to vote for it. So no, it is not an easy process. And we've been, you know, geez, Steve, what was it, 3 years ago? We hired a consultant to help us really dig into the numbers, do a significant amount of research. She's looked at, you know, how much the inflationary increases you were allowed to pay yourself, you know, what your base rate was, what it looks like, calculated, you know, how much back pay is there. Overall, it's about $115 million. It's just $15 million for Macomb. It's $33 million for Wayne County at this point. And that's money that we think, you know, the state owes you. That was the deal from 2004 when we entered into that agreement with the state of Michigan to save them their general fund dollars, that they would pay you that money when you came back. And overall, by counties paying themselves out of that reserve fund I told you about, that saved the state over $1 billion in general fund that they didn't have to appropriate to county governments in their revenue sharing payments over these past couple of decades. So having them cough up that $115 million when they're getting $5 billion from the federal government should not be that big of an ask.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. I just have a little bit of housekeeping based on what was said. The first is with respect to the MAC regions. Region 5 does have, Wayne County has a dedicated commissioner on the board. So we do have, I believe we have one extra because of that. It is also because of that, though, that Oakland and Macomb guard our attempt to make sure we each have somebody on the board. Love Wayne County, but we don't want them to have 2 or 3 on the board, and we're sitting with none. And there are a couple of other counties in our region. So because we're such a populated area, I did want to clarify that we do have at least that one person. I want to touch on the dark store issue. How many times have you guys seen a Walmart or a CVS close down and open up 2 blocks over, and the first building sits vacant? And then that same entity is going to use this vacant building's value to try to set what their taxes are over here. And they've got deed restrictions on that building so that nobody else will move into it. So they purposely create the vacancies, and then they use them to get a benefit in not paying taxes. And those are taxes that we lose at the county level. If that got transferred over to office space, when all these companies decide they're going to start having everybody work from home because it's worked out so great and it's cheaper for them, imagine the amount of money that we could potentially lose if they were successful in using that same theory for office space. So that one was one I really, really, really wanted to emphasize, as well as the property tax exemptions for some of the newer commissioners. I put it a lot more simply. It's this simple. The legislature has a big heart, and there's a lot of people out there that shouldn't be paying property taxes for one reason or another, and they love to give those exemptions. It's easy for them because they're not the ones losing the money. We're the ones losing the money when they do that. If I'm sitting up at the legislature and I'm going to make everybody happy by giving an exemption to this charity, that charity, veterans, every different thing you can think of, why wouldn't I do that? The state's not losing money. I'm not going to have to worry about cutting my budget. We'll let the county deal with that. So I really appreciate the advocacy that we have at the MAC level on these issues, because I don't know that we would have I don't know that we would have the attention we do on these issues if they weren't there. And they do get in front of the legislative committees and they testify with gusto and with passion. So I really appreciate that. And the podcasts, every time there's new legislation every week, they're on top of it. And Chair Hall, with respect to them coming, once we open up, they try to go to half of the counties every year, which is over 40. So once they're driving to those locations and we're not doing Zoom meetings, we'll be lucky if we see them every other year. So while we are doing Zoom meetings, I wanted to get the opportunity to get them in here. And the last thing is on the 4-year terms, Steve, we have a resolution on today's agenda. I will text you if it passes to get that information to Derek immediately. So
Great.
With that, I'll relinquish, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. When I said at least twice annually, I figured we had some influence to make that happen. Next is Commissioner Farrington.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and twice a year would work. Even they can go via video. So, Steve, Dina, and Megan, thank you very much for it. We didn't always agree when I was up there, but you're always very professional and advocate well for the counties. I want to concur with some of the things Veronica said and give a different perspective. The dark store issue is coming. Make no bones about it. I was talking to Steve Schmiegel today, and I said, are we preparing for this? Because there is no doubt in my mind that commercial real estate is going down. And to put it in context, if commercial real estate goes down 20%, we get 14% of our budget from that bucket. That means only a 20% drop in valuations, or the revenue from the valuations, will decrease our total county budget by 3%. So it won't take much to have a meaningful effect on the county. I advocated hard on your side on that issue. And quite honestly, because we had another legislator, Dave Maturin, who this is what he did for a living, and we could not understand why no one else understood this. I have nothing to say. So my only take on it, and Veronica mentioned it, is my suggestion is instead of going after the entire thing, take a bite out of the apple and stop the deed restrictions. There was a lot of support there, and at least go one step in the right direction because it's a more simplistic type issue. So I think more legislators go for it. The other issue is the TIFs. That one is really complexity. And again, I suggest taking a bite out of the apple. Is no one wanted to take on all the legislation. I mean, I literally had mayors of cities go, I can't believe all our revenue is dropping. And then the next day go, hey, you got to support the local TIF and the Downtown Development Authority. I'm like, dude, that's why your money's going down. Think about this a little bit. So my suggestion is set your goals on just resetting the base every 10 years or something like that, because that alone will help a lot. It's a bite at the apple because, there was one in Grand Rapids, I think they're in year 25. Yeah, of course, taxes have increased over 25 years. So resetting the base, I think, is the bite at the apple that is simplistic enough and won't have so many wars. So just want to give that to you. Thank you very much for all you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for your experience on those issues. Next is Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Commissioner Kleinfeld, for arranging this meeting and bringing Steve and his team down here to talk to us. We're not bringing him down here personally, but certainly we appreciate your input. And one of the things that I've been paying attention to particularly is your podcast. I found it was very helpful, and I encourage all the commissioners, if you want to stay current on things, and certainly check in there because they're right on top of things. You get real-time information, and it's not a long commitment to your time, but they give you good information, and it's something that I use and find very valuable as chair of the board and watching things. And it's good to know that you're on top of so many subjects for us. And the commissioners, you've heard a lot of issues here today, and you may agree or disagree with some of them, but I encourage you to be involved in MAC if you want to make more of an impact on that. And certainly they'd love to hear your perspective on all these issues. And they're very receptive to hearing from you. And it's good that our state legislature has so many county commissioners in there. Hopefully they don't forget where they came from for some of these issues when we talk to them about them. Certainly the 4-year term of office is something that we all obviously care very much about, but there are a whole host of other issues, and I won't go through them all, but just want to say thank you. Mac's been an important part of the county's operation, lobbying on our behalf, looking out for our flanks in Lansing. Yes, we have state legislators and senators who we elect locally, but they're another tool in our toolbox that we can use to get the things that we need for efficient government down here. I appreciate you, and thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. And once again, thank you, Steve, Megan, and Dina. It was a pleasure. We have a motion and support to receive and file. Please vote. Bye, guys. Have a good evening.
Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, commissioners. Next item on the agenda is contract, Anco Consulting, defined contribution consulting program, no cost to the county. I need a motion.
By Nard.
Support Van Sickle.
Motion by Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. Is this Andrew McKinnon going to speak to this?
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for the time today. First, I wanted to start off with my deepest condolences to Ms. Laidlawn. I hope that I have that name correct. In watching the beginning of this meeting, my heart absolutely broke for you, and all the thoughts and prayers in the world for your great loss. Moving on, we were fortunate enough to move to an RFQ for our consulting services for our defined contribution plan. That is something we had not done in quite a number of years since we set up this plan, and it was time to do that. When we set up the plan, we had set up a plan that paid for itself according to basis points, which means a percentage of the dollars that were in the plan. That made sense at the time because it was a new plan and there weren't a significant number of dollars in there. Now that we have the plan up and running and pretty well funded, it made more sense for us to go with a flat fee structure, which we have gone with. The documents have been provided to you, and I hope that you've had a chance to review them. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, but first I wanted to start off with a few things. Number one, we had run interviews for 2 different quotes here. And the reason that we went with 2 of our different individual companies who had quoted was that we had pre-existing relationships with both organizations. Furthermore, they have local offices within the Tri-County area, and both of them have a long track record of success with Macomb County. The first is Anco Consulting, who does handle our defined benefit plan with our pension system, along with several other of our large dollar plans within the county. The other was Sigma Planning. One of the members of Sigma Planning is Mark Mueller, who works with us in our benefits department. Both have saved the county a lot of money over the years. Both have performed very, very well over the years. And we wanted to have a conversation with both of those companies. They both did a spectacular job presenting to us, but we did end up going with Anco. One of the reasons that we went with Anco is that they have absolutely no conflicts of interest. They don't even have the ability to roll any of our high dollar employees over into their own products. So they simply consult for us. They do not sell any products to individual employees whatsoever. So that was a big positive for us. Secondly, one of the things that I guess I was a little disappointed in as I came on in this role was that they brought to my attention something called the Forfeiture Fund. And I know that's not a great term to use around here, but we've got a forfeiture fund of our defined contributions within the county. And what that looks like is we have a vesting system for the first 5 years. If you come on and you've stayed with the county for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you're earning a percentage of the county's matching contribution. If you don't stay all 5 years, you forfeit some amount of that. That is a very large number at this time, about $1.4 million that we have in an account that we can use for those members in the defined contribution plan. However, our previous consultant never brought that to our attention. We now, when that was brought to our attention, we were able to use that to eliminate the healthcare contribution for newer employees. And I think you are, now I should say the former board was all aware of that. That was a huge get for us from Human Resources, because we had employees who were paying healthcare contributions that were newer, and we had employees who were not paying healthcare contributions who were our longer term employees. We were able to equalize all of those employees, eliminate the contribution using those forfeiture dollars, and move forward with nobody making a healthcare contribution, which I was very proud of with our team. And that's the type of mentality that we have here in our office and in consultation with finance. If we can find ways to pay for things that'll benefit our employees, that's what we're going to do. And we were able to do that. And Anco is the consulting company who brought that to our attention. Third, there are more savings to come. Currently, our record keeper charges us $90 for a 457 account and $90 for a 401A account. It is Anco's representation that they'll be able to get those fees down. Again, those are per employee who has a account. So those costs are being borne by our employees. And finally, lowest is not always best in our opinion. So currently we've got a record keeper who was the lowest cost bidder when we retained them. This past year, for those of you who were defined contribution members on this board, this past year, they had a banner ad right as you logged in that said, please let us know if you're interested in COVID-19 loans from your defined contribution account. We don't like to do loans for our employees when it comes to taking money out of their retirement savings. We've got them for very narrow circumstances for emergencies, but our employees were not impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic financially within their workplace. Now, they could have been with the spouse or a child or something else, but they weren't financially within our workplace. So we did not elect to provide COVID-19 loans. However, Vanguard had that on their banner ad. And when I asked them to take it down, they let us know that that was a countrywide ad. Nobody could take it down. It was a form front page that everybody had to have. And unfortunately, we couldn't have that adjusted. So probably took about 9 months before they got that down. And frankly, it was embarrassing to me that every time somebody got on there, it advertised taking a loan. And then I would get a call and I would get an angry staff member who said, I want to take a loan. And I'd say we don't have those available. So that's my little story for why we don't do, why lowest cost is not always the best. So that's my presentation for our defined contribution plan consultants. I am asking you to approve moving this to full board where we can approve this consultant to come on and work with us into the future. And I will take any questions at the pleasure of the board of the committee chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Currently, I have no speakers. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this subject?
Commissioner Hall, we do have Commissioner Farrington listed to speak.
I do?
Ignoring me again, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Farrington. Oh, now I got it.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you very much for discussing this. I apologize for my ignorance. It says no cost to us, but at the same time it says $80,000 fee. Can you clarify that for me?
I absolutely can, Commissioner. Thank you. That's a great question. I probably should have touched on that. But the reason that it's no cost to the county is this is borne by our employees. As I was talking about that percentage cost, the points basis, that comes out of, so I've got a 401A with the county. I pay for that every quarter. And so that's where the money comes from, is from our employees. So this is a savings to them over what they're currently paying, but it does not come from the county. There's no general fund money spent on this.
Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Andrew. Good explanations on many things. I did have a question, though. When you found these monies that had been forfeited or abandoned or whatever, I'm a little confused on the usage of them, because I always thought that the monies that an employee received were defined, and they received what they received and they paid for what they paid for fixed, and then you just found some extra bucks and went in and paid some stuff that the employees were paying for. That seems to be, I don't have a good word for it, but it doesn't seem to be what I've ever known to be happening in business.
Certainly, Commissioner. Thank you for the question. I think the word you were looking for was brilliant, to help our employees. So what happens is every year we vest 20% towards our defined contribution match from the county. So as a new employee, when you go into the 401A system, you are mandated to contribute 3% of your salary. The county matches 6% of your salary. Every year you vest 20% in that, up to 100%. At year 5, you're fully vested. All of those monies are now yours. Up to year 5, if you quit before then, some of those monies come back into a forfeiture account. That money cannot go back into the general fund. It just can't. It's disallowed under IRS regulation. You have to use it for those employees in some way, shape, or form. What we can do is elect to use those monies in lieu of the general fund making a contribution. And because you can use it in lieu of the general fund making a contribution, you can then take those general fund dollars and use them for something else, which is what happened. We then stopped requiring employees to pay for healthcare contributions, because the general fund monies that would have gone to making contributions for the defined contribution plan could now be used to offset payments that were not coming in for healthcare. Does that make sense?
Okay, I understand what you said. Now, when there's a certain amount of money there, when that money runs out, then what? Then the employees will be given the bill again?
That's another great question. And the answer is likely no, because every year that goes by, we have less people on our defined benefit plan and more people in our defined contribution plan. So our forfeitures of people who don't make that 5 years increases every year because you have more employees that you're losing that are DC members every year. So because we don't have pension members, new pension members hiring on, every member that hires on is a DC member. We then also have more DC members quitting before their 5 years. So the amount of individuals forfeiting monies back into that system goes up every single year. So our, I hate to keep using the word forfeiture, but that's what it is. Our forfeiture account keeps growing in that place.
So you're sort of rolling the dice and betting that enough people will leave the county before they're fully vested that you'll keep getting funds from those purposes.
Yeah, I don't know that it's rolling the dice so much because it's proven out over time that that's the way it's working. And and you know, it's just a growing number of employees. Also, you know, at some point we've got a hard cap within the there's a legislated hard cap for our healthcare spend. And at some point we will go over that. You know, we try to manage it constantly. At some point we'll go over that. Then we don't have any choice than to pass those on. But when they're passed on, it'll be equally across the board, as opposed to what we had before, a two-tier system where those with a pension didn't pay anything towards their health care and those with a defined contribution plan did. Now we'll all be in the same boat, fortunately or unfortunately, we'll all be in the same boat.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Actually, Commissioner Van Sickle asked the question I was curious about. Don, your microphone's still on, Commissioner Van Sickle. But I personally am going to have to give you guys a call because I want to know how much I'm allowed to put in and versus what I am putting in and what you guys match if I put more in, because my husband keeps letting me know that he wants me to put in as much as possible so that when I'm gone, he's got the money to spend as he sees fit. So he reminds me on a regular basis that I need to make sure I'm putting anything and everything I can into that account. So I got to contact you guys to make sure I'm putting as much as I can. But Commissioner Van Sickle asked my question. Thank you, Chair Ha.
Thank you. Sounds like a pretty intelligent husband to me. We have a motion and support to refer to full board. Please vote.
It's in exchange for the large insurance policy I have on him.
That motion passes 13-0.
Oh my God. Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Andrew. Very well done. There it goes. Next item is Rules of Procedure Work Group Update. I need a motion.
Motion by Nard.
Support Matuzik.
We have a motion by Nard, support by Matuzik. I see Veronica has her finger up.
Yeah, I'm going back to the agenda because I don't think we were going to vote on final passage today. So I want to see how it's on as a motion.
Well, I'm looking at it as receive and file.
Okay, good. All right. So just very quickly, we've done everything we went through, but we haven't gone through then line by line to make sure that there's no conflicts. We were waiting to hear from many commissioners that might have any changes or anything before we did that. So I just wanted you guys to know that. That's all I have. We're just wondering about your input at this point.
Thank you. Crystal, did you want to add anything?
No, I think she covered it.
Okay. Commissioner Farrington.
Thank you, Chair Hall. I tried hitting the button and didn't work. So
yeah.
Just two minor things. There is a typo that says in appropriate, 2 different words instead of inappropriate, 1 word. Trying to find it. No, I can't find it. But anyways, so when, oh, here it is. It's page 6, Rule 19, D3A. So just want to let you know it's not inappropriate, it's inappropriate. The other one I have a question on. Rule 15, number 3, B3. It says an item may be added to a committee agenda at the time the committee is considering adopting the agenda upon a majority vote of the members of the committee. Is this if I give, let's say, Chair Hall an agenda item, he refuses to have it? Is that where that comes into play?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so. I wasn't sure. That was all. Thank you.
I see no other speakers. We have a motion to receive and file, and please, commissioners, anyone that has input, get it into Crystal. We greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Michael. Next item on the agenda is resolutions. We have a resolution 2021-6443 supporting passage of legislation to adopt 4-year terms for county commissioners. I need a motion.
Moved by Kleinfeld.
This is to refer it to full board.
Second, Zinner.
Motion by Kleinfeld, seconded by Zinner. This time I'm checking. I have no speakers at this time. Motion to approve. Please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 10B, Resolution 2021-6468, affirming support for the 2021 Tri-County Summit. I need a motion to well, that one we have to refer to full board. Motion
by Romano, refer to full board.
Support Wallace.
Motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Wallace. Or was that Nard?
Wallace.
Thank you. Chair Brown,
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we're putting together a tri-county summit. We're having discussions with the leaders of Wayne and Oakland County. Put together a summit that commissioners can participate in, and we're working on the logistics of posting that meeting and a date. We'll have more information forthcoming. We've got a planning committee set up to do that, and we're looking forward to talking about issues that we're all in agreement on, primarily infrastructure and other subjects. So stand by for more information, and it's coming. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Just so commissioners know, a revised resolution came out today. I talked to Crystal, and we know that all 3 counties are voting on this, so we didn't want to change the intent of it. But there was some wording that didn't sit right with either one of us, like whereas topic areas of previously held meetings, it's topics.
Yeah, clean up the language. Yeah,
things like that. Yeah, so we just cleaned up a few things, and that's what the revision is. It doesn't change the meaning of anything that is in there. That's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. We have a motion and support to refer to full board. Please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. Next item is item 11, proclamations. We can take these all together or one at a time? Any preference?
Chair, I'll make a motion to take them separately.
Thank you. Need a motion?
Chair, I'll make a motion to take them all together.
Wait a minute. We've got one motion and neither one was supported. So our first motion is to take them separately. Do I have a support on that? Motion dies for lack of support. Next motion is to take them all together. And when I say that, I'm still going to allow dialogue on any one of them. So we have motion A through E. Do I have a support on that?
Support, Van Sickle.
Thank you. I have a motion and support. Okay. Anyone wish to speak to Proclamation A? Proclamation declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Yes, Chair.
Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to speak very quickly about this. I won't keep you. I know Ms. Lightline said everything best. So I hope you were able to hear her and just understand what this proclamation is for. But I did want to just follow up and say that this proclamation, also known as Wear Orange Day, is in recognition of the victims and their families, and the loved ones. So I just want you all to understand that and clarify even more that, many times the victims are the ones that get overlooked. But this is a day that we can stand together as a community and remember and recognize those that have been affected and have lost their lives in this manner of gun violence. So that is all I wanted to say, and support Mrs. Lightline and what she said earlier. That's all,
Thank
Chair.
you. Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else on Proclamation A? Then we will move to Proclamation B. Proclamation honoring the Kiwanis Club of Mount Clemens on their centennial celebration. Anyone wish to speak on B?
I'll speak really quickly, super quick.
See what happens when you open the door.
I know. So I think you all know I'm like a big advocate of giving back and recognizing our youth. So the Kiwanis Club has been doing this for so long, and this celebration is 100 years of giving. So I just really think that they just deserve this recognition, and just that's about it. See, real quick, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We will move to proclamations recognizing May 14th as Among Veterans Day. Maya.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Wallace, for introducing those two proclamations, which I fully support. My condolences go out to Mrs. Leland as well. Thank you for joining us today, and I encourage all of you to wear orange in honor of the victims. I'd like to read the proclamation, if that's okay with everyone. Well, first, let me just also say thank you for passing the resolution last week regarding condemning hate crimes against Asian Americans. We had a pretty packed agenda, so I didn't want to take up too much time last week, but I think we have a little bit time today for me to read this proclamation to all of you. Whereas 2021 marks the 45th anniversary of the first Hmong families arriving in the United States as refugees of war in 1976, with thousands settling in the state of Michigan, and whereas during the Vietnam War, the Central Intelligence Agency and the United States Armed Forces recruited, organized, trained, and assisted Hmong forces to combat the North Vietnamese Army and Communist Pathet Lao forces. And whereas Hmong men and boys courageously fought alongside Americans during the secret war in Laos. And whereas thousands of Hmong men and women and children died in Laos, their deaths unaccounted for, while their commitment to rescuing down American pilots and saving U.S. troops was unwavering. And whereas when the United States withdrew from Laos, the Hmong faced harsh retribution from the Vietnamese and Lao governments for their involvement in the American war effort, and many ultimately were forced to flee their native land. And whereas on May 14, 1975, the last of the Hmong Lao soldiers and their families fled Laos for the Napong refugee camp in Thailand, later resettling in communities throughout the United States, including Michigan. And whereas the United States is home to a significant number of Hmong veterans, after providing political asylum and citizenship because of their unique contribution to American interests during the Vietnam War. And whereas Macomb County is home to a significant number of Hmong Americans and recognizes the importance of education for the general public about the historical contributions of our Hmong veterans, and whereas the diversity of the Hmong adds much to the cultural fabric of our city, state, and county and country, as they have shared their traditions, food, and practices of faith. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners, speaking for and on behalf of all county citizens as follows, that by these presents, the Macomb County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims May 14th as Hmong Veterans Day in Macomb County. The board urges all residents to reflect on the tremendous and often overlooked heroism and sacrifice of our Hmong American communities. And thank you. And I just want to mention that my parents were part of the thousands of Hmong that were living in Laos that were recruited by the U.S. to fight alongside during the Vietnam War. May is an important month for us, and I hope that all of you will support this proclamation and join me in celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Month. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank your parents as well, Maya. Anyone else? Next item, proclamation recognizing the month of May as Asian America and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Anyone wish to speak on this one? Okay, we will move on to Proclamation E, a proclamation commending Brandon DeBoss for achieving the status of Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America. I'll take one moment to speak on this. If you've ever have the opportunity to attend an Eagle Scout dedication, you have to do it. It's very lengthy, but the dedication and work and support these young men put into this to achieve this award is just phenomenal. So anyone else wish to speak on E? Hearing none, we have a motion support on proclamations A through E. Please vote.
That motion passes 13-0.
Thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda is new business. Oh, is that correct, staff?
Yep,
Yes.
right.
Okay, all those proclamations came up individually. Any new business, commissioners? I'm trying to get
Harold, Chair,
Commissioner Zinner.
could I say Happy Mother's Day to all the ladies and to all the gentlemen's wives and all the staff, whether you have children or not, I don't know. But everyone's nurturing, and that's a very great part of being a mother or being a lady. And also gentlemen are nurturing fathers, and gentlemen, Mike will get you on Father's Day. And everyone have a lovely day on Sunday. And there you go.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Yeah, one year my husband said, "What? You're not my mom." he never did that again. I just wanted to say, seriously, I've heard Miss Packard's story a few years now. My heart goes out to you. Every time you tell it, it's almost as if I'm hearing it for the first time. And God bless you. Just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Matuzak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an issue that I don't know what to do with, so I'm bringing it up under new business because that appears to be what we do. The county recently posted a job opening that I'm a little concerned about, a little confused about. On April 19th, the county posted an application for a community. It's really, I don't know who's on.
I think, Harold, you have to mute.
Was that me?
Okay.
Yeah, Judy, I'm sorry, Julie, could you repeat?
Yeah, I will. It was sort of hard in my head here. On April 19th, the county posted a position for a community engagement specialist. The department is listed as the Health and Community Services. The hiring authority was the county executive. It's a full-time position. The general summary reads in part to engage the community to achieve our ongoing goal of having our county workforce be more representative of our residents in order to provide the best service possible to all residents of Macomb County. Under essential functions, it talks about working together with community groups and county departments to authentically support equitable and best practices in the hiring process, and to assist in examining and improving the hiring systems in a manner designed to support all county residents and the broader community. Now, this is an issue dear to my heart, and I have been speaking about this since before I was elected, about the need for county hiring, promotion, and contracting to better represent this community. I am concerned, however, that the department listed is under Health and Community Services, sort of wondering why it's not under our Human Resources Department. The hiring authority is the executive, and clearly this position is designed to look at all hiring, not just hiring in one department. I have some questions. It's like I don't sort of get this, and I have some concerns about it. My other concern is that it was not widely broadcast we were looking to hire this kind of person, and it was only listed for 5 days. So my concern is if we're looking for someone to basically engage the county and the community in being more inclusive, but we're listing a job opening for only 5 days and not actually promoting it out there among the community. I've talked to a couple of representatives from organizations that would be very interested in this, and they never heard that it was happening. Why is this, what is clearly a county-wide function, being placed in Health and Community Services? And it also leads me to wonder if perhaps the county executive is looking to get around the charter in terms of the number of people he can have on his staff. I don't have answers to any of those questions, but they are questions in my mind. And I was very surprised to see this community engagement specialist posted. I don't know if the position's been filled, but I have this raised some real red flags for me, Mr. Chair.
I don't know where to begin to even attempt to answer. My suggestion would be a conversation with Andrew McKinnon and see why the post out, that whole litany of questions. He would probably be the most appropriate to answer them. Just my guess. And
yeah, I mean, it's being posted in the Health and Community Services Department, though. I mean, that's what I'm sort of not getting.
Well, I wish I could answer, but I cannot. But they are a litany of a lot of good questions there. What I would appreciate if you talking to Andrew, having him answer them and bring back the answers to us as well.
I
Because
am happy to do that.
you got everybody's curiosity now. Thank you. Next, Michelle, Commissioner Nart. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to invite everyone out. The 8 Mile, hold on, 8 Mile Boulevard Association is sponsoring a at 8 Mile in Van Dyke, and we'll be working with Detroit as well as Hazel Park. But my focus will be the 8 Mile corridor, 8 Mile and Van Dyke corridor. It's going to be May 15th. At you can register to volunteer on that day between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. and then we'll supply you with all the PPE and vest and anything that you need, and we'll be there until 2 o'clock. You can also register online if you have a group of people that want to come out and help. And what we're doing is just trying to clean up our front door, so to speak, because 8 Mile is the front door to Macomb County. So we want to beautify, especially that area on the south. So I'm just inviting any of the commissioners that may know of someone that wants to volunteer or any group to contact myself. I can also email everyone a copy of the flyer, and they can contact those representatives.
Would you please do that?
Okay.
Or send it to staff and have them send it all out to us.
Okay,
I'll nice to have. Thank you for that.
Yep, you're welcome.
Barb, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Matusik, you are such a gem. I appreciate you. You're just so darn bright. Thank you for what you poked around and found. And yeah, number one, where's the money coming from? And number two, if there are problems with our workers in the county, if they can't go to the HR, which I'm sure they can, then they should always feel that they can come to the board members. And good job. Let's figure this out.
Thank you. Next is Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to acknowledge that this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. And if any of you follow me on any kind of social media, I have been posting. So I'm just asking that you feel free to share anything I'm posting. Just let people know that you are there, and try to keep spirits up because we are still in a pandemic. A lot of kids are still at home. A lot of parents are still at home with their kids. So they may need a little uplifting even during this time. So please feel free to share. And if you have any suggestions, go ahead and let me know if you don't want to share, and I'll be happy to do that. That's it, Chair. That's it, Chair.
Thank you. And thank you for posting those things. And if you've noticed, I've shared every one of them. I want to get it out there as well.
You're a sharer, and I appreciate it.
Next is Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to congratulate Commissioner Yard on her project. I'm going to go down there and pick up some trash to help keep 8 Mile Road cleaned up. My old neighborhood down there, my old stomping grounds when I was a kid. So I'm happy to come on down and help and share the word on your project. We'll share that out with the board staff when you send it to us. And encourage all the commissioners, if you got projects going on in your district that you're doing that are cool and fun and interesting, share them with us on the board here. These open sessions and new business is a good way to promote it, or at the full board. It's good to hear what everyone else is doing. You never know, maybe we'll get us together on something besides the meeting and we can all work together on the project. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sung.
Thank you, Chair. And I also just want to mention on May 29th, we're doing an outdoor celebration for the 45th anniversary, and also May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. So that's May 29th in Warren. You guys are all invited. Welcome to come. If you feel comfortable coming out, if you've gotten vaccinated. And Courtney will share that information with all of you to remind you about it too. Thank you.
Thank you. And your social media post on that subject was just beautiful. So thank you for that too.
Thank you, Chair. I'll also mention I'm wearing a vintage bone shirt that was handmade sometime in the 1990s. Thank you.
Second round, Commissioner Matuzak.
I just wanted to acknowledge that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. Our teachers have done an amazing job these past 2 school years. They have had to jump in and learn a whole set of new skills about how to connect with people through a computer, much like we try to connect here, except imagine doing it with second graders. I give them all the credit in the universe. They have struggled going back to school with their own personal safety concerns and the safety of their students. They have done, in my mind, an amazing job. People talk about a lost school year. I don't believe it's lost. I believe we teach our children resilience and creativity and the fact that the world changes on a dime and we have to go with it. And that's an amazing responsibility for teachers and other educators. So I saw a helpful post the other day. We have many of our teachers who have set up funding pages for their classrooms in terms of buying materials that is useful for the classrooms. Cards and flowers and a bottle of wine is nice, but contributing to their GoFundMe page or their classroom wish list on Amazon is a fine thing to do. So I just want to thank all the educators, teachers, custodians, bus drivers, librarians, aides, all of those folks. You've done an amazing job in a very difficult circumstance in the past almost 2 school years. So good job. I do appreciate you all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I would be remiss if I didn't say Happy Mother's Day. So I'm not going to miss that opportunity. Next item is our second public hearing. Second public hearing is open for those who wish to speak, a maximum of 5 minutes of any topic. Under Rule 21, personal attacks, coarse derogatory language, and cursing will not be tolerated. Individuals using such language will be removed from the meeting. Do we have anyone wishing to speak under public participation? Staff, do we have anyone?
Chair, we have Pamela Lideline.
Go ahead, Pamela.
Oh, yes, I just want to thank everyone for your support on the proclamation. And I don't know if you can see this. This is my daughter, though.
Yes, we can.
Think about her on June 4th when you wear orange. You can see her face, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're all deeply sorry. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Staff?
Chair, there doesn't appear to be anyone else wishing to speak.
And no one in the chat box?
Correct.
Thank you. Then we will close second public. Next item is adjournment.
To adjourn by Nard.
Support Van
Support
Sickle.
Romano.
We have motion and support. Please vote.
Romano votes verbally, yes.
That was Joe Romano. Thank you, Joe.
Yes,
That
sir.
motion passes 13-0.
Thank you. I'm heading over to Sterling Heights, Joe, for an outside dance recital by my 5-year-old granddaughter. I'm wearing my heated coat. God bless everybody. Have a great week.
Take care. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good job. Good night, everybody. See you.